This is Pratham. He got a remote job and is making more than 80 lakhs a year, and he's just 19.
I work as a software engineer at Eclipse. I finished my 12th grade 5 or 6 months ago.
The crazy part is, he did not even go to college.
I don't really see the value in college, like personally, considering where I am at in my career and stuff.
What's even more insane is the story of how he got his job without having any professional degree.
I was at the Celestia Modular Fellows cohort. That is sort of where I got exposure and I got to meet people at Eclipse.
In this episode, I got on a call with him to ask him exactly how you can get a remote job and moreover make thousands of dollars working from home.
Make projects, contribute to open source projects. If you can show that you've already contributed to code bases, it sort of gives the employer confidence that yeah, this person has knowledge in this field.
He also told me the strategy with which he would learn to code if he could start over.
Find something that you're really interested in, could be making games, websites, neural networks. Go to Google or ChatGPT. I want to make a game. How can I do so?
And what is the most in-demand technology to get you a high-paying salary? This interview is a masterclass if you want to get a remote job and earn thousands of dollars working from home. I am Sanskar and you're watching The Sanskar Show. How did you get your job at Eclipse straight away after your high school and without getting any professional degree?
So for context, I work as a software engineer at Eclipse, and I finished my 12th grade, I think around 5 or 6 months ago. Towards the sort of, I guess, September, October of last year, I applied for this program called Celestia's Modular Fellows. So Celestia is another blockchain company, and again they specialize in certain areas of blockchain infrastructure and stuff. So I was a part of that cohort, and that was very pivotal for me because I got to meet like a lot of the sort of some of the best folks in the blockchain space over there. I met a lot of founders. I worked on this project of mine with Celestia, and it was just great exposure. And that is where I happened to meet Neil, who was the founder of Eclipse, and that's how we sort of got connected. And then um, you know I was really interested in working in this sort of in the blockchain infrastructure space. It's something that I had been studying for over a year or so. So it was obviously something I was really passionate and interested about. So when I sort of got a job offer from Eclipse, in I think in February or March, when my board exams were just about to end, I joined Eclipse, and I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do, and that's how I ended up at Eclipse.
Awesome. Achha, now a two-part question. So, how did you start to code, and like, what did you initially start coding in, and from when did you switch to blockchain and this Web3 space?
So, I mean, if you talk about like learning how to code, some of those origins go back to like fifth grade, when I was just learning how to make small games in Scratch, or, I was learning Q Basic for school exams that we had. So, there, I learned very basic things like what are integers, what is, conditional statements like if, then, else, all that stuff. And I, just learned about all those things. But, really like I started programming well after COVID started. I just had lots of free time from school, and I didn't have to worry about any homework or like anything like that. So I was just like learning how to code. I learned Tailwind, I learned React, Next.js, even tried Svelte, Vue, all those things. So lots of web development stuff. But I was mainly also very interested in artificial intelligence. So I was making neural networks with TensorFlow, learning what gradient descent is, what activation functions, all those things that are there. And I also like taught myself how to read research papers and stuff like that. So and just did a lot of really fun like learned lots of fun things in the AI and machine learning space. So that was really interesting.
How do you learn? Do you learn by videos, by books, and also have you used any paid cohorts or paid courses to learn to code?
Yeah, honestly, I've never. I mean, recently I've started, buying some paid courses to upskill myself, but even those I haven't really gotten around to. most of my learning actually came from just, if I wanted to learn a framework, I would see the YouTube video on it, and then, I would just try to make a project using that framework. So if I'm learning TensorFlow, I'll learn how activation functions, how can you implement an activation function inside of a layer in TensorFlow. Then I would try to do it myself. That's kind of how I learned. And like, yeah, I just saw other people's projects and like try to modify it, or try to start I try to do small experiments of my own, writing small Python scripts to automate things that I wanted to, like, once I was trying to install Arch Linux onto my computer, and I tried to write a small bash script and a Python script to basically install Arch Linux automatically. So I was just solving small problems here and there, exploring things. But that's kind of how I learned how to code. Never really used paid resources or anything. So
If you hadn't gotten this job, then would you have considered going to a college or would you have done something else?
now I don't really see the value in college, like personally, considering where I am at in my career and stuff. I think there's lots to learn at this job that I have, and I'm working with like really smart people on like a really interesting problem, and I really enjoy that, so I want to continue doing that. But even other than that, I think there are lots of things that I just want to learn in my own time and stuff. So for the time being, I think I can maybe take a break for 2 or 3 years before going to college, and then we can see where I want to take my educational career in. um but if I hadn't gotten a job at Eclipse, I guess perhaps it would be um maybe I don't know, it would have been difficult to explain to my parents what I would be doing by dropping out in this free time and stuff. So I'm not sure how that would have panned out, but I'm you know maybe there was some way I could convince them and stuff. But yeah, the main things my parents were concerned about is, if I take a drop here, they don't want me to just waste my time, and if I'm not really doing anything well in my free time, and if I'm just playing games and stuff, might as well go to college and get a degree right as soon as possible. So but right now I'm definitely learning not only things in the blockchain space by being at Eclipse and working with all these really amazing people, but I'm also using a lot of my free time to learn about artificial intelligence, finance, economics, things like that. So yeah, I think I'm for the time being, I don't really see myself going to college.
Right. And let's say, Pratham, in a hypothetical scenario, you don't have this job. So, how would you approach getting a job in today's time? You don't have a degree, but you have your skills. So, how would you approach getting a job? Let's say, how would you get a remote job, to be specific?
Yeah, I think one of the more important things in getting a job is contributions. Like open source contributions really help. So, I mean, I think first you have to identify what kind of job are you looking for. Would you want to be a web developer? Do you want to be something more in the core infrastructure side of things? Working with AWS, Terraform, DevOps, all that, or do you want to sort of work on the backend stuff with Python, TypeScript, or something, or maybe you want to do AI engineering stuff, and so I think first you need to identify where you want to work in. Do your research, look for what are the sort of interesting things that people are working on in this world, whether it's AI, whether it's Web3, game development, or whatever that interests you, and then also consider how what sort of career opportunities are in each of these fields. And then I would say, once you've chosen one particular place where you want to get a job, um, learn the tools that are typically used in that industry or that role. So if you're interested in backend development, learn JavaScript, learn Node.js, Express, or whatever backend frameworks that all these companies are using. Learn TypeScript, all that. And then I would say, make projects using those sorts of tools, and also contribute to open source projects if you can. And this is something I have been more interested in recently, but I've seen so many people that if you can show that you've already contributed to code bases, it sort of gives
Right.
the employer confidence that, yeah, this person has knowledge in this field, and like they've already worked with this technology and stuff, so it'll be easier for them to adjust to the company's stack or whatever. So I think that really helps. And then obviously be on Twitter, be on LinkedIn, make connections, make friends, talk to more
Right.
people, talk to more employers, and try to reach out to them. I think the main sort of it all boils down to is taking initiative. And if you don't want to help yourself, no one can help you. So take initiative in projects, take initiative in joining cohorts like I did for Celestia's Modular Fellows, and just focus on making stuff. And at the same time, be sure to show whatever stuff you've made to the world. Like, I think that's pretty
Right.
important. So I think if you do that, someone somewhere will definitely recognize your talent, and they will, obviously, there are so many companies in the world. Someone will require your your skills, and it will be helpful to their company. So just, yeah, that's kind of like the advice that I think I would give.
Let's say you do not have any knowledge of how to write code today, hypothetically. So, how would you approach to learn to code in today's time? Which technology would you choose, and how would you go about it from zero to becoming a pro?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And like, this is something that I wish that someone, when I was starting my programming journey, would have told me. But like, I just had no guidance. So just, like, I had to figure it out on all on my own. So what I feel like today, you have Chat GPT, you have all these AI tools to help you as well, and you've obviously had Google for so long. What I would say is, first find something that you're really interested in. Could be making games, could be making websites, or maybe you want to make neural networks, you want to write smart contracts for blockchains. Whatever it is that you're interested in, find that. And once you find out what you're interested in, I guess go to Google or Chat GPT and just ask, like, I want to make a game. How can I do so? And what tools do I need? So if you're learning game development, you might want to learn Unity, C Sharp, and like those sorts of tools. But if you want to make websites, you might want to learn something like JavaScript, React, PHP, or Laravel, or whatever. So just figure out what tools do you need to make a website or make a game or whatever, and then start I guess looking for courses, like free courses. I'm not talking about paid courses. Like, you can go on YouTube, search for JavaScript tutorial, and that's where you can sort of learn the basics, like integers,
Right.
functions, classes, that sort of stuff. Once you do that, you can move on to just making the project. If you want to make a game, just go head first into the game. Like, even if you're a bit scared, just try and do it. Worst case is, you will it will be so difficult you'll give up. But the most realistic case is, if you stick to it, you can keep asking Chat GPT or Google for help. And in this like journey of just exploring things, you will learn so much. Like, it's invaluable. Like, no
Hmm.
other tutorial or course will teach you that. Just dive headfirst into a problem and try to solve it. And just by feeling and understanding your mistakes and learning things, that's kind of how you'll grow as a developer. In fact, that's how I would say. Especially right now at my job at Eclipse, and in general as a programmer, I've become so much better just by you know just diving into projects and doing things, trying things out, learning things. So practical experience, man, that's pretty much all it. Just find something interesting you want to make, learn the things that you need to make it, and then just start making it. Like, seriously, don't worry about anything else. And yeah, that's the best way to learn, in my opinion.
Right. How much money are you making right now working at Eclipse? Obviously, don't share the numbers, but if you couldn't share some ranges or some comparison so that the audience gets an idea.
Yeah, obviously, I think it's everyone sort of, most people need a job. There is a you have to obviously run your home. You have like to feed yourself, obviously, and stay alive. So I think there's nothing wrong in like working, like having money as a motivation. But yeah, other than that, like as far as my salary goes, I think it's in the six figures in dollars. And I think for like sort of I'm not exactly a junior engineer. I'm a bit more higher than that. So I'm like a mid-level engineer, I think, for that. That's sort of like the pay that you can expect, given that you have the right connections and stuff in Web3. Also do keep in mind that I don't just do engineering work at Eclipse. I also have this Twitter following of 100, around roughly 147 150,000 followers. So that's obviously, I use that to amplify Eclipse and help in marketing and stuff. So obviously my pay might be higher because of that. So, but I think six figures for programmers of mid level, I think that's very much sort of like the norm in the Web3 industry.
And how did you grow your Twitter following? Because I guess that's helped you a lot in helping you reach where you are. So how did you go about that?
Yeah, quite frankly, like, I never really had any, when I joined Twitter in 2019, I had no intention that, I want to grow an audience here or something. That, all I was just like, it was just a casual account. I was scrolling through memes and stuff like that. So nothing special. But when COVID started, that's when, I sort of noticed that there's like a really massive developer community on Twitter, and I was learning how to code back then. So that's kind of how I started to post things that I was learning about, as I mentioned before. So if I was making a website, I would post about, hey, I made this website using Tailwind and here's how I did it. I
Hmm.
went through
Okay.
a step-by-step process explaining that in a thread and stuff like that. And I did the same for my AI journey, AI and Web3 journey. If I made a smart contract, or if I tried to implement like a blockchain in Python or something like that, or I installed Linux on my phone or something. I would just share those sorts of projects and things I've done. So that's kind of how I grew my Twitter. Just did those sorts of things, and I guess people found it interesting. So that's sort of like my Twitter journey.